We all enjoy this. You're watching your favorite team compete, adrenaline pumping, completely absorbed in the action. But have you ever wondered where that sport actually came from? The answer might shock you because almost everything you think you know about who invented your favorite sports is probably wrong. Where history speaks. What if I told you that basketball wasn't really invented by one man in a gymnasium, that baseball's origin story is complete fiction, and that the ancient Olympics might have been founded by a completely different person than history claims? Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of sports origin myths, and trust me, you'll never look at your favorite games the same way again. Sports aren't just entertainment. They're deeply woven into our national identities and cultural pride. When England fans chanted "Football's coming home" during the World Cup, they weren't just being patriotic, they were making a historical claim. But here's the thing about sports origins. They're often more mythology than reality, and those myths reveal something profound about human nature and our need for heroes. Let's start with the world's most popular sport, soccer, or football as most of the planet calls it. With roughly 4 billion fans worldwide, it absolutely dwarfs every other sport on Earth. Cricket comes in second with a mere 2.5 billion followers. But where did this global phenomenon actually begin? The English claim is compelling at first glance. In 1863, representatives from 11 different schools met at Cambridge University and established the fundamental rules that would shape modern football. They decided, crucially, that players couldn't carry the ball with their hands. This decision was so controversial that rugby schools' representatives dramatically stormed out of the meeting, leading to football and rugby becoming separate sports entirely. But here's where it gets interesting. Games involving kicking balls with feet existed thousands of years before that Cambridge meeting. Ancient Chinese military manuals from the 2nd and 3rd centuries BC describe a training exercise called Siu Chiu. Players had to kick a leather ball stuffed with feathers into a small net, and touching it with hands was strictly forbidden. Sound familiar? The Japanese had Kamari, appearing about 500 years after the Chinese version. Like its Chinese predecessor, hands were banned, but instead of scoring goals, players tried to keep the ball airborne, essentially an elaborate game of keepy-uppy. Even the Romans had hapatsum, played on rectangular fields with center lines where teams tried to move balls across opposing goal lines. But the real ancestor of modern football was something historians call mob football, popular in medieval Britain. Picture this: entire towns would divide into two massive teams with no player limits. The goal was to move a pigskin ball across the entire town to a designated goalpost, using any means necessary. According to one medieval source from Workington, England, the only rules were that murder and manslaughter were strictly prohibited. Imagine hundreds of people in a chaotic town-wide brawl over a ball. Terrifying, but somehow amazing. The transformation happened in 19th century British boarding schools. As these institutions made sports a bigger part of education, they adapted the violent mob game for cobblestone courtyards. Each school developed its own rules, creating a confusing patchwork of variations. When schools wanted to compete against each other, standardization became necessary, leading to that famous 1863 Cambridge summit. So, were those English fans right? In one sense, yes. While people had been kicking balls for millennia, British schoolboys were the first to codify the rules and give football its modern shape. They didn't invent the concept, but they invented the sport as we know it today. Rugby has an even more fascinating origin myth. Legend claims that in 1823, a rugby school student named William Webb Ellis was playing football when he made a rebellious decision. Instead of setting down a court ball and kicking it forward as the rules required, he tucked it under his arm and ran toward the goal. His defiant act supposedly impressed everyone so much that they changed the rules, creating rugby. It's a perfect story, rebellious, dramatic, and fitting rugby's identity as a more rough-and-tumble alternative to football. There's just one problem: it's completely fabricated. The tale first appeared in 1876 in the school magazine, written by a former student, 4 years after Ellis had died. Ellis himself never claimed to have invented anything. The story was simply created to give rugby a cooler origin myth than its boring reality of evolving naturally from the same mob football roots as soccer. This pattern repeats across sports. Baseball's origin story is particularly American in its mythology. According to legend, in 1839, a young man named Abner Doubleday walked onto a field in Cooperstown, New York, with a mission to create a completely new, completely American game. He supposedly arranged 4 bases in a diamond formation and established all the rules for what he called baseball, claiming it was a refinement of American town ball with no connection to English bat and ball games. This story became baseball gospel, with Cooperstown becoming the sport's official birthplace and home to the Hall of Fame. But like most sports origin myths, it's fiction. Baseball evolved gradually from various bat and ball games, including English rounders. There's no evidence Doubleday invented anything, and the Cooperstown story was manufactured decades later to give America's pastime a suitably patriotic origin. What about ice hockey? That's an easy one, right? When people ask who invented ice hockey, the truth is more complicated than just saying Canada. Games with sticks and balls on ice go back centuries. Scots played shinty, the English had bandy, and even Charles Darwin recalled playing hockey on the ice as a boy in the 1820s. Across the Atlantic, the Micmac people of Nova Scotia played their own frozen stick and ball game called Duwakan, and they carved the first curved wooden sticks. So ice hockey wasn't born overnight. It grew out of many winter traditions, both indigenous and European. But the modern version, with a puck, set rules and organised teams, did take shape in Canada. On March 3, 1875, at Montreal's Victoria skating rink, James Creighton organised the first recorded indoor match using a flat wooden puck. 2 years later, McGill University students published hockey's first official rules, reducing team sizes and introducing face-offs. By the 1890s, nets, 6-man teams, and the Stanley Cup gave the sport its modern form. Leagues in Kingston and Montreal spread the game across Canada, and in 1892, Lord Stanley's Challenge Cup became the ultimate prize. From there, hockey exploded worldwide. The International Ice Hockey Federation adopted Canadian rules in 1908, and by 1920, Canada was winning Olympic gold. Today, the sport is both Canada's national winter game and a global phenomenon. But its DNA is a blend of Scottish lochs, English rivers, Indigenous lakes, and Canadian rinks. So, did Canada invent hockey? Not exactly, but Canada codified it, standardized it, and made it the fast, furious game we know today. The ancient Olympics carry perhaps the oldest sports myth of all. While most historians place the first games around 776 BC, the ancient Greeks believed they were founded much earlier by a godlike figure named Heracles, not the famous strongman Hercules, but a different Heracles entirely. According to myth, this Heracles and his 4 brothers staged races at Olympia to entertain the infant Zeus, with winners crowned with olive wreaths in competitions held every 4 years. These divine origin stories served important purposes. They elevated sports beyond mere entertainment, connecting them to cosmic forces and giving them sacred significance. Modern myths serve different but equally important functions. They create national identity, celebrate innovation, and satisfy our desire for heroic narratives. But why do we need these myths at all? Sports origins are genuinely difficult to pinpoint because games evolve gradually. Pinpointing the birth of a sport is like trying to say exactly when dusk turns into night. The transition is gradual and subjective. The Industrial Revolution created new opportunities for leisure, especially among wealthier classes. This led to a complete reimagining of sport in the 19th century. Games that had been played informally for centuries suddenly received names, official rules, organized leagues, and formal recognition. This era also birthed a new type of sports myth. Stories that attributed invention to specific nations or individual genius inventors rather than gods. These myths reflect the values of their times. Ancient societies saw sports as divine gifts because they viewed competition as fundamentally sacred, often connected to religious ceremonies and military training. The Mesoamerican ball game, played from around 1400 BC across regions, from Nicaragua to Arizona, wasn't just entertainment, but a religious ritual with cosmic significance. Modern myths, however, emphasize human achievement and national pride. They transform sports from evolutionary processes into moments of individual brilliance or cultural superiority. England's claim to football, America's baseball mythology, and countless other origin stories serve to reinforce national identity and cultural distinctiveness. The truth is usually more complex and interesting than the myths. Sports develop through cultural exchange, adaptation to local conditions, gradual rule changes, and countless forgotten contributions from ordinary people. The Cambridge Football Summit didn't create football from nothing. It formalized and standardized something that had been evolving for centuries. Understanding these myths doesn't diminish sport's significance, it actually enriches our appreciation. These stories reveal how deeply sports matter to us, how they shape our identities, and how we use them to understand ourselves and our place in the world. They show that sports aren't just games, but cultural artifacts that carry the hopes, values, and dreams of entire societies. The next time you watch your favorite sport, remember that you're participating in something far older and more complex than any single origin story suggests. You're part of a tradition that stretches back to ancient civilizations, shaped by countless forgotten players and continuously evolving even today. The real story isn't about individual inventors or national ownership. It's about humanity's endless creativity in finding new ways to play, compete, and connect with each other. So whether football is coming home to England, baseball belongs to America, or any other sport claims a specific birthplace, remember that the beautiful complexity of how sports actually developed is far more fascinating than any myth. These games belong to all of us, shaped by our collective human desire to push boundaries, celebrate excellence, and find joy in competition. And that's a story worth celebrating, regardless of where it all began. If you liked the video and want to be notified as soon as a new episode is released, please hit the like button and subscribe. And if you want a specific historical topic that might be unknown to a lot of people covered here, leave a comment. Thank you for watching and stay curious.